All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Veiled Reckoning podcast. I am rocking a new mic, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Um, maybe almost a little too better. Um, Still trying to work out like the bugs and the kinks of getting this stuff all together for you guys. So that it kind of flows a little bit more smoothly. So thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for your patience. Um, and as promised, I said I would get better. So hopefully this episode's a little bit better than the last as far as the logistics goes on sound and video and whatever. And I promise I won't be staring at you like this the whole time. Hopefully not. Anyway, moving on here. So since it is night, we're going to do our weekly night Epstein look through the files, interrogation, whatever you want to call it. So with that being said, I have a special little intro for all my millennial friends out there.
Night, 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 night.
Will you please? Here, give me a moment's peace and take out the trash.
All right, taking out the trash, taking out the trash at night.
Isn't that great? Okay, so back to our show here. See if you can still see me here. There we go. I figured it out. Woo. Okay. And now my screen is like, this is what, see, now this is what I thought was happening last time. Like, I totally thought that you guys had a lot bigger of a view than you did. And I didn't realize it until I'd already made the video, but I had already put in so much work to that video that I was like, there's no way I'm remaking this. They're just gonna have to deal with me being a weirdo. It's fine. Um, like that's how little I was like genuinely, I would rather you think that I am just a weirdo that stares at you while I do commentary um than redoing the video. Like that would have just been like, but it's authentic. It's like you can only do something once and be authentic at it once. Like if I had to remake that video, it would be difficult to be as authentic as I was because it's very like this is my actual opinion in this moment, you know? So anyway, so first, I just want to say that I'm going to be getting started with going into the guards. There is some very suspicious behavior with the guards. There is um a lot of specific or specific suspicious behavior with the inmates. And by suspicious, I mean it's like you're finding notes that they wrote that contradict what's being reported. For example, you're finding inmates' testimony that doesn't align with the narrative. And there's little things here and there that I've been picking up that I'm like, that's a little weird. So let's dive into this. We are going to be looking at, to be more specific about the guards, we're going to be looking at Tova Noel. She was one out of the two guards that were supposed to be keeping an eye on Jeffrey that night when he committed, you know, we all know. Okay. So, it's up here. And let's see. Okay, so Jeffrey Epstein's guards are scapegoats of broken system defense attorneys. This is from the New York Post. Okay, so right here we have Tova Noel. She's the one that we're going to be focusing on in this episode here. This is going to be Michael Thomas here to our left. Okay, we're going to get to him later. Oh, geez. It's a lot of ads. I just want to read the thing without like 1,000 ads. My goodness. Okay, so The two Metropolitan Correctional Center staffers accused of falsifying records the night Jeffrey Epstein died are scapegoats of a broken system, according to their defense attorneys. The comments came Monday as suspended corrections officers Tova Noel, age 31, and Michael Thomas, age 41, appeared briefly before Judge Annalisa Torres. Based on our view of the case, I believe there are outside circumstances that are impacting this prosecution. Noel's attorney, Jason Foy, told Torres back during a back and forth about setting a trial date. Thomas's attorney, Montel Figgins, agreed, telling the judge that systemic problems at the Bureau of Prisons were going to be a part of the case. One of the issues here is going to be conditions, supervisions, and the policies updated and advanced by the Bureau of Prisons, Figgins said. Asked outside of court if Figgins thought his client had been scapegoated, he responded, "Absolutely." Noel and Thomas are accused of failing to check on the notorious you know, every 30 minutes as required, and allegedly fabricating documents claiming that they had done so. Instead, court papers say they dozed and surfed the web while sitting in a common area just 15 feet from the creep's cage. The duo discovered Epstein hanging in his cell around 6:30 a.m. on August 10th and immediately confessed to not performing their checks according to the indictment. Attorney General William Barr on Friday characterized Epstein's death as a perfect storm of screw-ups. Well, we all know that Attorney General William Barr is also in the files, right? So it's kind of interesting that he is trying to say that there's a perfect storm of screw-ups. I mean, yeah, I mean that would benefit you as having been in the files to blame the guards of dropping the ball on the inmate and not there being some sort of elaborate cover up of this, of course. But anyway, moving on. Um, the correction officers initially appeared last Tuesday before Magistrate Judge Sarah Netburn when they entered in not guilty pleas and were released on a $100,000 bond. On Monday, Torres set a trial date for April 20th and shot down yet another request from Foy that Noel be kept able to keep her personal firearm since the charged crime was non-violent. Torres called the decision a common sense safety measure and ruled that the gun would remain in the court's possession. Asked by reporters of Noel Field for her own safety, Foy nodded, citing safety concerns from the press. Noel and Thomas declined to speak as they left the courthouse. They're due back on January 30th. Okay. So when was this? So this was back in 2019. Okay. So moving on. This is what's being reported to us. They're saying that they're scapegoats, and the attorney generals are essentially just saying it was a perfect storm of strange events that, and then he just found an opportunity and he decided to take his own life. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is a series of things in the files that I found that I feel are important and relevant into kind of trying to know and understand who Tova Noel is and may possibly be. The question is she a scapegoat? And if she's a scapegoat, then for who? Is she a scapegoat for the because they don't say that in the article. It just says that they're a scapegoat, and I think everybody probably automatically assumes that they mean that they're a scapegoat for the Bureau of Prisons. The Bureau of Prisons is trying to say that it's their fault for um, having lack of better security or staff or uh, working conditions or living conditions for the inmates. Who knows? And that very well could be true. They could be scapegoats for that. I'm just saying they don't elaborate on whom they are saying that they are scapegoats for because I question based off of some of the emails if it's possible that she could be a scapegoat for a much deeper issue. Okay? Is it possible that she knew Jeffrey Epstein before being hired on as an employee there? Is it possible that she was planted in there by Jeffrey through grooming and other means? And I know this sounds crazy, but I mean, considering everything that we know now about Jeffrey and our own government and their ability to essentially buy people and have them be put into positions that they otherwise wouldn't be in if they were not brought here from another country or given a certain opportunity. Essentially, there's a lot of people within the Jeffrey network where they are brought here under circumstances of being promised to go to school and given a lavish life, whereas they otherwise might be living in poverty in a very, rundown third world country. Um, and so we know that he's known for taking advantage and preying upon vulnerable people, mostly women and young girls, to be able to do that and to get, essentially it's like he's creating his own world. He has his own people, they work for him, and they're happy to do so because even though they're being trafficked and they don't like that, but to them, the alternative is living in poverty. So a lot of times they just do it and that's all they know. That's how they grow up and that's what they're told. Even their parents will tell them, you're going to go to America, you're going to go live with this guy, and this is going to be your life, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to be fine, you're going to be fed, and everything's going to be okay. This is going to be your life. And they don't know anything else. They just know that's what they're told. I mean, think about it. For us, I know my millennials can relate when I say we were told, you know, you can be anything you want. You can get a job, you can be the president of the United States, but you got to go to college. I mean, it was like beat into our heads. It was go to college, go to college. If you don't go to college, you're going to be living on the streets. You're going to be having the worst job in the world. Like you need to go to college. And then what did we all do? We went to college. And now what are we? We're slaves in debt, you know? But that's what I'm saying. Is it gets to a point where it's like, I mean, you get what I'm saying. Like parents kind of have like this influence on a young mind and shaping that mind and saying like this is what's going to be best for you, trust me. And a child typically will trust their parents in that situation because they're a child and they don't have any other choice and they assume that you want their best interest typically, even if that's not the case. So um with that in mind, we're going to move on to the files. So here is an email I found, and I actually just found this right before I started this episode. So I thought this was really interesting. So on May 24th, Monday, May 24th of 2021, let's see. Actually, you know what? We are going to scroll all the way down here. We're just going to start at the beginning. So it says from Vegas Army vet. It was sent on Monday, May 24th of 2021. And it was sent to James Seplowitz, and the subject is Tova. And they said, go ahead and let your client Tova know this isn't over, in all caps and with a skull face. So, yeah, that's what does that mean? Like, what is that even supposed to mean? What isn't over? What isn't over? And then we're gonna get into this a little bit later, but just so that you have a background, why the Vegas Army vet thing sticks out to me is because Tova was actually in the military. She That was one of the very first things she did when she came to America, and we're gonna get into that next year. But yeah, so go ahead and let your client Tova know this isn't over. That's kind of creepy. Like, what are they talking about here? And this is my point, is like if this was just as simple as, oh, this is Jeffrey Epstein, he went there, he was a high profile person, he had a lot of money, and his case was coming up and he knew his time was ending, and so he just took the short route home or whatever. Even though he has plenty of ways to not have to do that, we're all just expected to believe that. But there is so many different pieces to this puzzle. And when you see emails like this, it just proves my point further that this is not a as simple as they're trying to make it seem. And I see a lot of correlation or a lot of similarity between this case and the Charlie Kirk case. Not because they're related in any way at all, other than the fact that they're probably both giant cover-ups. But outside of that, you see a common theme here, a common theme of them coming out and saying immediately, this is what happened, this is what it was, and there's no other possible explanation, and we should move on. And that's it. We all know that's weird. We all know, like, wait a minute, why would he do that? And isn't there this and isn't there that? And what about this and what about that? But they do their very best to be like, no, 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 no. This is what it is. Have you seen the Super Bowl? Have you seen the Dow lately? Has anyone seen that? So that's my point is we have the lone gunman Tyler Robinson, this is what happened. It doesn't matter that the gun doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter that he, wouldn't have been able to take that shot and disassemble it and get it in a bag that doesn't even fit and get off the roof in that amount of time. That doesn't matter. Okay? The Dow's up 50,000. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he left the scene of the crime and then came back to the scene of the crime to ditch the gun in the woods with the towel that has his DNA on it. Doesn't matter. All you need to worry about right now is the stock market. So, anyway, back to this though. I don't want to get off on a Charlie Kirk tangent because I could. But back to this, that's my point, is this theme of there is too many weird emails, there's too many weird circumstances to just not look into this, to not investigate why somebody would get that email. Okay, so Jason Foy is Tova Noel's lawyer, and he sent an email to apparently James, his partner. So he said, redacted and redacted. Why they're redacted, I don't know. But good afternoon at 12:22 p.m. My partner James received the email below. I interpret the email as a threat against Tova's safety. I am requesting that the government use its resources to thoroughly, expeditiously investigate the perceived threat and let us know whether it is credible. Note that I believe the email went to my partner because when people email us from the link on our website, it goes to my partner and not me. Please give me a call to discuss in further detail. Thank you. Okay, so, that explains why it was redacted because he was sending it to FBI agents, and a lot of those have been redacted. God forbid we know who was working on the case. I mean, anyway, hi, Kevin. Tova Noel received the below threat, and her attorney has asked that FBI conduct a threat assessment. Her plea to the DP is tomorrow. I know that Redacted is on leave, and I asked that the case team to also reach out to Detective whoever, although I'm not sure if he's available. Would it be possible to assign someone to do a threat assessment if so and so can't do it? Happy to discuss further by phone. I am sure the AUSAs would be happy to discuss, would be happy to cut any needed subpoenas. Thank you very much. Okay, and then they said, can you take a look at this? The victim is one of the Epstein's guards. Thanks. So it just looks like a bunch of forwards of like, hey, I'm going to forward this to this person. I'm going to forward this to this person for this person. So like I said, I literally just found this right before I started this episode. So this is actually very interesting to me, and I think I'm going to try to look into it and see if they actually ever did follow up on that. Um, But for now, we're just going to keep on going into what I had planned for this episode. And if I find anything on this, I'll update you guys. But okay, so here we go. This is her Equifax report. Okay. And they printed this because I think they wanted to know like her, they were looking into her purchases and things because there was a lot of, um, what's it? There was a lot of inmates and guards reporting, and even Jeffrey himself telling his lawyers that he was being extorted. And so there was a lot of threats being made because everyone in there knew that he was a multi-billionaire. So they were extorting him, I believe. And so they were looking into her finances and they were looking into other people's finances. And that's gonna be up the whole separate episode because that's a lot just by itself. But I was looking at some of like the commissary accounts of some of these inmates, and yeah, it was like all of a sudden they were buying like long lists of stuff and were they when they otherwise weren't like in previous dates, and then all of a sudden Jeffrey's there and all of a sudden they're buying like $40 radios and all these snacks and like so totally believe that he was probably being extorted. But they pulled up, her credit and all of this, and they're looking at her files and her purchases. And what stuck out to me is what I have highlighted here. So she was formerly known as Toya Noel. Okay, you guys see that? Let me zoom in here. She was formerly known as Toya Noel. Okay, she got married, so that's where the Christian came in. But when she got married, and believe, I'm not exactly sure of the date, but I have that in a file in here, so we'll get there. But when she got married, she changed her name from Toya Noel to Tova A. Noel Christian. Okay. Um, why she changed her name from Toya to Tova, I wouldn't be able to tell you. What I can tell you is that Tova is actually a Jewish name and it means good. So, say whether that or not has any relevance, I can't say for sure. I just thought it was interesting that we have a woman who is not from Israel or anything like that, doesn't appear to be Jewish, doesn't mean she isn't Jewish, um, changes her name, her first name. Because, I don't know about you guys. I'm married, okay? I'm a married woman. Um, when I got married, I never thought in a million years that I would change my first name with my last name. Um, but that's just me. So I just thought it was a little bit interesting that oh, and then keep in mind too, she ended up getting divorced. So one could argue that she got married specifically for the name change. And then yeah, it's just weird. I don't know. And then when she changed her name, when she took the Christian off of her name, because you could see her name on file is Tova A. Noel. So she dropped the Christian part. That's her husband's last name. Dropped that, but kept Tova. Didn't go back to Toya. I don't know why she would need the name Toya instead of Tova, but maybe she just likes it more. Maybe. I probably should have renamed myself like Lady Glitter Sparkles or something. I don't know. I missed an opportunity. Anyway, all right. So with the name Toya Noel, I thought, I wonder if the name Toya is in the files because I don't know. I guess just keeping in mind that he was a really powerful guy. It wouldn't be far-fetched to think that he could have his own security guards, right? So I just put the name in there just to see what would come up. And sure enough, I did find an email with her name. Now, when I say her name, I don't mean that it's her, okay? It could be her. They do have the same name. Is that actually her, though? I wouldn't be able to tell you. What I can tell you is that she was able to give a statement about where she was in the years leading all the way up until she got to the prison. And then she graduated college, I want to say in May. It was May of 2017. And then she didn't start working at the Bureau of Prisons until 2018. So from May of 2017 until the year 2018, there's no, there's nothing at least documented from any of her statements that she gave to the police or in any emails that I can find. Of course, I mean, these are Jeffrey's emails, these are not her emails. And there's no way for me to get those emails. I mean, of course, if she's ever watching this or she sees this and she wants to provide an alibi, I'll happily take it. Just because I'm very curious because of this email. So if you look at this email, knowing that she very well could have been in Florida on this date, um, it's very interesting. So this was sent from Anne Rodriguez to Jeffrey about Admiral Farragut Academy. Farragut, I don't know how to pronounce that. Farragut, maybe. Um, hey, boss man. Cece won't be able to do boarding at Admiral Farragut Academy because she's being retained in the 7th grade, and Admiral Farragut Academy only allows boarding for 8th to 12th grade. I'll call the school tomorrow to see them to ask them if Cece can do their academic summer program to get her in the 8th grade. I did their online application for the summer program. They're offering a 6-week academic courses from June 24th to August 5th. Hours are 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, blah, blah, blah. And then these are the courses that they're offering. She goes on to say, my sister Toya said Cece can stay with them since she's 8 to 10 minutes away driving from the school. If she does get in, we would have to leave on Sunday, June 25th, or Monday, June 26th. So my sister Toya said Cece can stay. Well, her sister Toya would have to, in order to allow somebody to stay with them, I would assume they have their own place. I would assume that they're old enough to say, hey, you can come stay with me. And also, I have somewhere to stay. I don't know. I can't, again, I can't say for sure that that is the saint, that's the guard, Tova Noel. All I can say is that her previous name was Toya, and we found her here. Moving forward into my next paperwork here. This is Tova Noel's. Uh, they put together like a profile of her. And I'm not going to show the whole page because they didn't redact. Like, the FBI, you can tell by looking at these files that there are certain people that they are like attacking. They did not redact her social security number. They did not redact her name. They did not redact her email address, a lot of very personal information, phone numbers and everything. And so I'm doing my best to not show you that here. And really the only information I wanted to show you was on the second page anyway. So what I wanted to point out was here we have the where she was divorced from her husband Jerome Kevin Christian in 2013. Okay. And then right here. frequent international travel. Returned from the most recent trip on 28th April 2019 on a flight from Beijing to JFK. So she has frequent international travel. And her most recent trip was from Beijing. Okay. So a CO that works in New York on a CO salary makes frequent international trips, one of which was to Beijing. Okay. I mean, it's not completely unheard of. I mean, especially as a single woman. And I mean, she was living in an apartment. I don't know how much her rent was. I'm assuming rent isn't that cheap in downtown New York. They didn't redact her address either, so that's how I know that. Um, but seriously, you can't make this stuff up when I tell you that one of the apartments she was living at literally had the name Jeffrey in it. Like, come on, you're literally living at an apartment called Jeffrey Apartments. Again, I'm not saying that she was involved. If here's what I'll say. If she was involved with Epstein in any way, I would suspect she was more of a trafficked victim than a co-conspirator of his death or something like that. Like, I would think that maybe, like, if she was being trafficked by him, this is all hypothetical here. This is hypothetical. I don't know if any of this is true, but I'm just looking at the files here and I'm just thinking if we're putting these puzzle pieces together, if she were trafficked by Jeffrey, it is possible that she could have found herself in this prison. So then he has people that he knows in the prison that he can trust. And maybe that's what she thought she was doing. Like, it is possible that she was involved with it, but like not to that extent. She wasn't like a deep state involved with it. She was just there doing what she always does, which is being a confidant or a helpful person to Jeffrey, making sure that he gets what he needs or making sure that he's, safe and okay or whatever. And maybe that night she dropped the ball. I don't know. Maybe she didn't at all. I'm just saying. Or maybe he had her there thinking that that was what she was supposed to do. And then he ends up escaping. Let's just look at it from another angle here. Let's say maybe he didn't get killed there and he switched his body out and he's using her as the scapegoat in order to get away, to make it look like he really did take the short route home and it's her fault. So then nobody's looking or even guessing or even trying to find out if he's still alive. And now her life is ruined as a result of that. So that might explain the email that they were getting saying that go ahead, let your client Tova know this isn't over. And it's from Vegas Army vet. So that tells you it's obviously somebody, like this goes deep. This has deep roots. When I say deep roots, I mean military level. I mean intelligence level. Okay, this isn't just a surface level. And I do think that she was possibly a plant there. But I don't think that she was necessarily a plant there to make sure that he took the short route home. At least there isn't anything that I have found so far to suggest that. If anything, the only thing that I've found so far is that she was maybe potentially being trafficked and was one of his many female clients um, that was having to be of help to him in many ways. Again, I don't have proof of that either. All I have are these emails, and I'm just trying to make sense out of something that doesn't really make sense. So, I mean, here they say they are scapegoats. And that's why my initial question was, what are they scapegoats of? Are they scapegoats of the prison, or are they the scapegoats of something more? Were they part of the deep state and then the deep state dropped them and made them scapegoats? And that's why they're saying they're threatening, like, hey, you better watch it. You're gonna end up taking the short route home too, or at the bottom of a cliff, like some others. Um, or falling down the stairs, maybe accidentally, potentially, allegedly, um, supposedly. Okay, moving on. So here's another thing. She has a 2019 so this is 2019 that we're talking about this, right? So she had a brand new same year Range Rover. Most things are not cheap. So you mean to tell me on a CO salary, and this is not a dig on COs. They make pretty decent wage. And I do believe they get to retire early. So it's a pretty sweet gig. I'm just saying, we're talking about a Range Rover and multiple frequent international traveling. All right. If you're a CO and you can afford to do that, maybe as a single woman, maybe no kids, also renting downtown New York. And maybe things were different in 2019. This was pre-COVID. So, hey, maybe this is just my post-COVID lenses and I'm like, "Whoa, how the heck can you afford that?" Because we're literally like now it's like uncomprehensible to be able to afford something like that even as a, you know, single person with no kids. Um, but yeah, please, if you work in that industry, please, I'd be happy to hear, if that's something that you think that they can afford. I happen to have friends who are COs, and it's their lifestyle's a little bit different, but it's only because they also have children. So that could be a part of it as to why they maybe aren't able to drive a brand new Range Rover and go on frequent international trips. So I don't know, I thought that was interesting, especially because too, like, remember I said they were going through her purchasing accounts and all of that, and you can see in the accounts that she is making cash purchases and cash deposits, some for like $5,000 at a time. Seems a little interesting. So sometimes if you want to learn the answer to something, you have to follow the money. And the money says that she was definitely getting paid a little bit more than you would anticipate on a CO salary. Now, maybe she had a side hustle. Maybe she was doing hair on the side for people and getting payments for that. Maybe she was, um, who one can only speculate what type of side hustles she was potentially doing. Maybe she was making things and selling them out of her home. Maybe she was selling bakery goods, out of her home and making a little bit of extra cash on the side. It's possible. Or it's also possible that she was being trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. I'm just saying. Okay, moving on. Here we go. So, oh yeah, that's right. I was supposed to show you guys, and I didn't get a chance to because I don't want to dox her any more than she's already been doxed. So I'll just tell you. So she is from, or actually, you know what? I think I have it here. She has a statement that she was giving about where she's from and how she got here. Here we go. So this is the background of Tova Noel, how she got here, essentially. So Tova Noel was born on, redacted, in Antigua. Okay. She was raised by her single mother, Dr. Sylvia Ephraim, her grandparents, and other extended family. Her mother left Antigua to come to the United States to pursue her education. Again, common theme here. For some reason, and this isn't even linked to Epstein that I'm aware of or that I can prove, but there's a lot of women and girls that surround themselves or get involved with Epstein to pursue an education because he will pay for their education. There are even men who are willing to work for Jeffrey, whether it be being his pilot or working in the garden or like whatever the case may be. They're willing to keep their mouths shut and their eyes closed if it means that their daughter or their little girl or who their precious boy gets to go to Harvard and have it be fully funded. Okay, so this is not an uncommon theme. Um, Now, is it possible that she left Antigua to come to the United States to pursue her education on her own and was able to gather up the funds and everything on her own? It is possible. We don't know anything about her prior to this. Like, I don't know what type of work she was doing. I don't know if she had a savings. I don't know how well propped up she was to be able to go on such an endeavor. Maybe she got a scholarship. We will never know. At least maybe from so far with the files I've seen. Maybe as I continue to search, I might find more. But for now, this is what we know. We know that Jeffrey sends people to go get educations and funds them. And we know that Tova Noel changed her name and her real, or yeah, her real name was Toya Noel. And there is a Toya in one of the files. And there isn't a date that we can account for her as being anywhere else other than where that email says that she could have potentially been. So that's what we do know. So she left Antigua to come to the United States to pursue her education. On July 4th of 2002, when Tova was just 13 years old, she migrated to the United States to be with her mother. So when Tova was 13 years old, that's when she migrated to the United States to be with her mother. Now, I would love to know. It would be nice to know how old Tova was when her mom left. Because it's entirely possible that her mom could have left, worked for Epstein, and been like, yeah, I have a daughter back home. And he's like, cool, I can get her this, I can make her life, we can do all this. And she'll just have to do this. And, it is entirely possible that she could have brought her here, you know? Um, so 13 years old seems to be one of the common ages that we keep seeing throughout, you know, the files and Jeffrey. But anyway, by the time Tova came to the United States, her mother had gotten married, had had a child, and had had a child from that marriage. Okay. The rest of the statement is redacted. Why it's redacted, I don't know. Like the whole sentence, like the whole thing is, I can't imagine the whole thing is that much of personal information. So I can only imagine that it is information that would further help piece together pieces of this questionable puzzle. Again, I can't prove it, obviously, because it's redacted. So it would be nice if it was unredacted, especially considering they unredacted her social security number and her address, her physical address, and her phone number, and her email. I mean, they unredacted her whole life, but for some strange reason, this sentence right here has to be redacted. Okay. Yeah. All that does for me is tell me that I need to keep looking because it tells me that they're hiding. You're not redacting it if you're not hiding. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only reason why you would redact it at this point. After you've unredacted her whole life and you're going to redact the sentence, like, really? That's another reason why I feel like would be more, she might be involved, but like not to the extent that people would think. I think that if anything, she's more of a victim and she's more of a problem for the government and for potentially other people as well. And that's why because we've seen that they've done it with the other victims where they completely left their names unredacted and it was clearly intentional because they were redacting other things on that sheet but not their names. So you can tell that it's just like this bitter, um, spiteful kind of icky thing that they would do. And that tells me that Tova's a problem for them.
What we need to do now is get focused and stop pointing fingers. You're a problem. You're a real problem.
Jan, I hope she continues to be a problem because we need to start being a problem. We all need to start being a problem. When Tova came to the United States, her family was living in the Pocono region of Pennsylvania. At the age of 14, she was required to take a placement test from the Pocono Mountain East School District, and based upon her score, she was placed in the 10th grade. Okay. So she had to take a test. They forced her to take a test because she got here. And they were like, "So, what's your education?" Tova excelled in school that year, according to her. This is her own account. The next year, her family moved to the Bronx, New York, where Tova continued to excel academically. In the 11th grade, the summer before her senior year in high school, her family decided to move back to Pennsylvania. She now continued to do well academically, but after her experience in New York City, she knew that she would one day return. That stuck out to me because it says after her experience in New York, she knew that she would one day return. What experience? What experience did she have as a 15, 16-year-old girl who's only been here in America for a couple years from Antigua? And she's only ever been to, so Antigua, apparently Pennsylvania, and now New York. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going back to New York. I'm not even going to check out, I'm not even going to consider Arkansas, Georgia, Alabama, Minnesota, New Jersey, California, Vermont, Montana, Tennessee, Florida, Texas. Not even consider Texas. I mean, there's just like there. She's just like, no, 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 no. I know that I'm going back to New York. I am 15 years old, and I know I'm going to go back to New York when I graduate high school. Okay. When I was 15-year old, I didn't even know what I wanted to eat that day, let alone where I was going to live for the rest of my life. So, and I live here. I've lived in the United States my whole life, and I didn't know where I was going to settle down at that age. The world was my oyster. Like I thought I could go anywhere. I could do whatever I want. I was like, when I graduate, I can go anywhere. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've never been to New York, so I mean, it is possible that she's just like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. I mean, I know it's a big city and you have, Times Square, and I'm sure like coming from Antigua, she's probably like, this is amazing. Maybe even in comparison to Pennsylvania. I've never been to Pennsylvania either, so possible that, just when you have only the two experiences of Pennsylvania and New York, your thought is like, wow, New York's way better than Pennsylvania. I'm definitely going back to New York. Is that possible? Yeah, it is. I just thought it was worth pointing out that it's a little weird that before she even like she just knew she was going to go back. You know who else was in New York? Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein. And probably Donald Trump too. They're both known for being in New York, having businesses in New York, apartments in New York, banking in New York. So there's that. And then Tova graduated from high school at the age of 16 in 2005. Look at that. She graduated from high school at the age of 16 in 2005. Now, I want to go back to this email where they're talking about this girl here. And they're saying Cece won't be able to do the boarding because she's being retained in the seventh grade. They only allow boarding for eighth to 12th grade. Now, I don't have the email pulled up, but I further looked into this and found another email. Jeffrey's response was he told her, just tell them that she did pass the seventh grade. That was it. He just said, tell her she passed. And that was it. Like she didn't even pass seventh grade. It was just tell him she passed. And apparently and she just responded back. She said, okay. So looking at this statement here now, sorry, I'm trying to find it. Yes. Look at, talk about, I mean, you guys, seriously, I'm telling you, going through these files, like there's a lot. There's a lot. Okay. So going back to this though, she gets here at the age of 13. She takes a placement test at the age of 14. She gets placed in the 10th grade. She excelled, gets to the 11th grade, excels again, and next thing you know, she's already graduated high school at the age of 16. So she got here at 13 years old. She came from Antigua, and within 3 years, she had already finished an entire American generation. My God, I need to get some sleep. An entire American education, graduated high school at the age of 16. Okay. So apparently she's a genius. She's just so smart. She's like just an insane genius, you guys. Like imagine that. Okay. So those are my thoughts. She's either one of the smartest people in the world, one of them. There's a lot of them. There are people who graduate early, or somebody was pulling strings to have her move through high school very quickly. She needed to get that high school diploma, she needed to get that GED so she can get into jobs, right? So, I don't know. It's kind of telling. So, after graduating high school and turning 17 years old, she attempted to enlist in the military. She was unsuccessful because her mother refused to give the military authority to enlist a minor. At the age of 18 years old, Tova left home by herself and returned to New York City. Tova lived with a friend she met when she attended high school in New York City and her friend's older cousin. So I wonder who this friend is. Tova lived with a friend she met when she attended high school in New York City and her friend's older cousin. Interesting because that was around the time where when she was in high school, remember she was saying, I know for a fact I'm going back. Okay, so she said, I lived with a friend she met when she attended high school in New York City and her friend's older cousin. Her friend's older cousin. Hmm. Who knows? Could it be related to this email? Could it be Anne Rodriguez that she's referring to at this time? I mean, the timeline adds up. It could have been. but we won't know because she doesn't say who her friend actually is. Okay. After struggling to work low-level jobs while attending the Borough of Manhattan Community College, Tova decided to temporarily suspend her studies and return to Antigua to consider what she wanted to do with her life. Okay, so the teenager that knew for a fact, she knew that when she was done with high school, she was going to go back to New York. But then after struggling to work low-level jobs, she decides, I'm going to go back to Antigua because I want to know, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. It seems very like, I thought I knew what I was going to do. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'm going here. I guess I'm going there. It almost seems like she's not making the decisions. It's like she thought she was going back to New York, potentially because that's what she was being told. And she was living with a friend when she went back to New York after she graduated, and her friend's older cousin. Who these people are, we don't know. I'd be curious to know. And then she's struggling while trying to go to college, and next thing you know, she's returned to Antigua to consider what she wanted to do with her life. Now, the only reason why I could think now, let's just play hypotheticals here. If she was being trafficked, one of the only reasons why I would think that she would go back to Antigua would be to bring more people back with her, potentially. Um, so then in 2007, she returned to the United States and lived in New York City. Again, back to New York. She met a young man named Kevin Christian. Within a year's time, Tova married Mr. Christian. They ultimately separated sometime in 2011 and eventually amicably divorced. So they got married, I would assume then in sometime, I guess we wouldn't know because in 2007 it says she returned to the United States and lived in New York City, and then she met Kevin, but it doesn't say when she met Kevin. It just says she returned in 2007 and then she met Kevin and then within a year. So I mean maybe 2008, I don't know, but Tova married Mr. Christian. They ultimately separated sometime in 2011. So I mean obviously they weren't married that long. If they were married in 2008, that would mean that they were only married for like 2 years. And if they got married in 2009, or they would have been married for 3 years, and if they got married in 2009, it would have been 2 years. So the most they would have been married is 3 years. Um, so then in 2008 to 2014, until 2008, Tova no longer needed her mother's permission to enlist in the United States Armed Services. Remember, I told you she was in the military. So she enlisted in the Army National Guard and began to serve our country. And that seems like that's right around the same year that she potentially got married. So it's possible that's when she changed her name, would have been around the same time that she joined the US military. Now, why would she want to change her name from Toya Noel to Tova Noel the moment she's getting ready to go into our military? I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. Why would that be of importance? Maybe it's of some importance. I'm just noticing that it seems to be right around the same time. She's changing her name and entering into the military right around the same time. Kind of weird. She did her training in Texas and South Carolina. Upon completion of her training, she was assigned to be stationed in Buffalo, New York. Because her husband was still in New York City, she was able to be assigned to Buffalo and physically serve in Queens, New York. Tova earned an honorable discharge from the Army on May 1st, 2014. And yeah, so it's just, I have questions. And in addition to these questions, let's add the fact that um, Jeffrey was involved in Antigua. Okay, he had islands in Antigua that I didn't even know. So right here, there's an email from Peggy who titled it David Rubin. And she said, I'm sitting next to him. He lives in London and Canes has a yacht called Siren. Now, for those of you that don't know, a siren, actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for another episode. I'm going to save this for another episode, but this word right here is significant. Okay? It's actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So, a siren is a mystical creature, so to speak, that is not necessarily a mermaid, but it looks like a mermaid, and it's called a siren. And the difference between a siren and a mermaid is that it lives in the water and it looks like a mermaid, and it's a like essentially they're these like beautiful women who have fish tails, okay? And they what they do is they sing us a very beautiful song, or they do something. They make you hallucinate or whatever in the water. And they would do this to sailors to lure them into the water to their demise, essentially. That was the point, was they wanted to take their souls, and they would lure them by prancing around or pretending like they were a lost woman at sea, and these men would jump overboard and be never to be seen again. So that's what a siren is. And fun fact, if you didn't know this, the Starbucks logo, that's a rabbit hole that I went down for a while. The Starbucks logo is actually the logo of a siren. It is a siren, and you can see her if you look at the logo. Um, Let me pull it up here. We're gonna pull it up. I have to do this, you guys. I can't stop going down rabbit holes. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this is just what I do. I go down the rabbit holes and I take you guys with me. So we're gonna do, we're gonna go down the Starbucks rabbit hole now. So look at, can I make this bigger? Yeah, here, look at this. So if you can see, so this is her tail here, okay? And she has it like open, like she's opening the tail because these are her arms, okay? So you can decide what, mental whatever you want to decide on what that means, but knowing what a siren is and what the point of it is. And it's kind of eerie because when you think about the chokehold that Starbucks has on people, it is insane. I mean, I was in that chokehold, so I know I was like one of those people that had to have Starbucks every day. It is very addictive, and it's addictive for a reason. But again, that's a whole different topic that we can get into at a later time. Right now, I'm covering what the heck is going on with these files. Um, but yeah, I would encourage you, like, go look into the logo, the the Starbucks logo. The original logo actually was like, if you think that this is kind of like risque, my goodness, you should have seen the original. The original was like creepy almost. It was like weird. It was like just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that's what a siren is. And now we can get off of this, get out of the Starbucks rabbit hole. Um, we'll get out of the Starbucks rabbit hole and we will go back into this email here. So he has a yacht called Siren. Go figure. That is 242 feet. He is going to Antigua tomorrow. He has done business in Russia for many years. He was the first Western investor in Russia. He is into mini fab scientific investments. You need to meet him. How far is your island from Antigua? He is a major nice guy. You would like him. How does he meet you? How far is your island from Antigua? Hmm. Should we Google that? I haven't actually done that. We should Google that. Let's see. We're gonna do was we're gonna look up Little Saint James Island. So it's in the Virgin Islands. So there's Jeffrey's Island. And then we're gonna look up um Antigua and Barbuda, because that's what that is. Where so it's from, I mean, I wish that this showed a distance. Is there like a boat option? So this is what happens when people get too rich. Can you even use Google Maps? Like, can we even see? My God. What in the So who knows? I mean, if anybody knows like how long it would take. But I mean, it's not completely unheard of. I mean, you think that he can't get a boat from his island here, from this area, and then get over here? I'm sure he can. It's kind of crazy. Like they're essentially their own, like that is like its own island. Like it is an island. Um, so anyway, back to the files. I was just curious. So here's another one. Um, it says, uh, Thomas, when we last met, you talked about the desirability of a marina in Antigua. I told you that Antigua is a country that we are very familiar with, and that my Eastern Caribbean partner, Sir Charles Williams, owns and operates in Antigua the asphalt plant, the quarry, the cement block plant, and the country's largest contractor. So, yeah, I mean, Jeffrey's CC'd in this, and he's responding and he's saying, hey, we have a lot of experience here. We know that country. We're very familiar with it. Okay, so I mean, he's obviously very involved in Antigua. Okay. So I lost my stuff. They're on to me, guys. They're on to me. They're like, no, you can't talk about Antigua. Did not talk about Antigua. Oh, there we go. I'm back. Okay. So moving on, I wanted to point this out because remember I said that the FBI seems to be like targeting people, like certain people. And the reason why I say that is because this is her, they have her information here. And they did this girl dirty. They did this girl dirty. Like, okay. So this is her work picture. Now everybody knows that like your work, like you should see my work picture. It is her work picture is like she is a supermodel compared to my work picture. Okay. But let me just say, like everybody, but even with that being said, like usually people's work picture is not like the most flattering, but hers actually is pretty decent. I mean, she's well put together. She has her hair up. She has on a nice shirt. She has, her face is clean and clear. Um, it looks like a work picture, but whatever. So we pull this down here and they're like describing her features, right? Or her makeup. And so for eye color, they put black, and for hair color, they put bald. Not black, not brown, like just her hair color is bald. Like how rude. That's what I'm saying. Is like it is clearly intentional. Like these little things are just really it's so irritating to see because like you can tell like that's intentional. Like you weren't even trying to spell brown or black or nothing in the hair color. You weren't because bald doesn't even like if you're spelling black it would be BLACK, but you have BALD or brown BRON. Like no, it's not. I'm not buying. So that's what I'm saying is that it just seems really. Oh, and then of course look at this. Of course, this is the protection order file record. Yeah. Michael C. Green, Executive Deputy Commissioner of the NYS Division of Criminal. So I don't know. I think I might have to look into this Michael C. Green. Might have to look into that guy. Because to put bald or seems a little spiteful. And I don't know why you would put that. And then yeah, this is because remember, she asked for a protection order because there was literally people telling her like this is not over to let her know that. And then it looks like they were like forwarding. Again, I'm gonna look into that as well, but I think this is the protection order that resulted in that would became the result of that email potentially. So yeah, see, look, they spelled black just fine here, of course, but I don't know. I'm gonna look into that guy though now. And that's the thing is like th- they really do expose themselves. They really do expose themselves. Like if they had not tried to be spiteful and bitter and put bald for her hair color, I would have not looked at this as anything other than this being a protection order. But they put bald and now I'm like, okay, who wrote this? Oh, Michael Green. Okay, why would you write that? Let's let's look. And it's possible that he didn't even write it. It's possible that um this is just like the stamp, the company stamp, they if you write an email, the same name gets stamped at, it's like the auto pen, you know, it's like the auto pen feature. It's just so it is possible that didn't do this, but he's the only name that I can see right now in involvement of calling this lady bald. So I'm for now, he's gonna be on my check next list. I have a list. I see stuff like this and I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'm writing your name down. I'm looking into you. I'm looking into you. I'm writing that name down. So like for example, I will give you guys a treat, if you will. I've found that Marilyn Manson's real name is actually Brian. I didn't know that. I don't know if you guys know that. Maybe everybody knows that. I always just thought his name was Marilyn Manson. I know his name is Brian because there is a victim in the files that was referring to him by his real name and not his stage name. That's going to have to be for another episode because I'm not going to go into that on this episode. But yeah, Marilyn Manson is in the files. And so is Marshall Mathers. Now, as far as Brian goes, it seems like the victim was told by her father that she absolutely needed to stay away from him. And again, this is all, I just want to say, allegedly. And it still needs to be thoroughly addressed by me. But allegedly, according to this victim, she claims that both Marshall Mathers and Marilyn Manson could have potentially been involved with victimizing her in some way. So, but yeah, guys, we're going to call it quits here for this episode. That'll do it. And I will see you guys on the next episode. So, take care, stay blessed. Bye bye.